Welcome to the Women Inspire Aspire podcast. We have with us today Aarti Sudarsanam talking about product marketing and mindful living.
Hi, Aarti. Thanks for accepting my invite to appear in the podcast. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Venkat. Thanks for having me here. I'm doing great. How are things with you?
Things are great. It's a pleasure to have you in the podcast. So let's get started. Can you give us a background about yourself, where you are from, where do you live, what do you do, etc.?
I've basically been born and brought up in Chennai. I did my schooling here, almost most of my schooling in Chennai. Did a bit of the later part of my schooling years in Bodi Naikanur, a very small town near Theni, a very beautiful place. Came back again to Chennai and then did my college here, my engineering. I went on to do my MBA as well from Great Lakes Institute of Management. Upon my completion of my MBA, I started off with my career in TCS, the broader set of marketing, got into product marketing within 4 years or so, the career start. That's where a lot of people were getting into IT jobs, and we thought that to be the most coolest ever. Big realization that IT is not specifically for everyone, but I always had an inclination towards doing my MBA. So, like most people who've earned their engineering degree and then, they realize that they are a misfit, the same kind of realization dawned upon me. And then I pursued my MBA preparation and did my MBA. But post my MBA, again, a very phenomenal change in my life. I realized that operations is something I always love. Coupled with analytics, that was my major and minor, and I graduated in operations in analytics. And there's never been marketing per se ever in my entire education of my MBA, but the marketing sort of happened to me out of MBA, got back into TCS, had a huge amount of education debt on my head. I was just like so desperate to get into some kind of a role that can really start paying me well. And that's how marketing really happened. But eventually, it was not a very straightforward marketing job, a very niche during the time I joined. It is basically an analyst relations. It is something like public relations, but here it is more of a strategic way wherein you or the person who is an analyst relationship manager would drive a lot of industry reports, make sure that whatever company they're working in gets into a lot of reports that are being written by the industry analysts, make sure that the products are well placed amongst the analyst community. It's all about spreading awareness, understanding the competition, making sure that we win in those assessments that are being circulated by these industry analysts. That was how exactly my career started post MBA. But it sort of hooked me into the entire, not specifically marketing, because it was more of at the cusp of marketing and strategy. So it was more strategic. There is a brand already, but it's all about how do you really take it to the analyst masses. So that was a very, very interesting challenge to solve. At some point in time, it was sort of becoming redundant for me. It was like I've explored almost every part of analyst relations. When I was thinking about what next, because this was sort of getting boring for me, I chanced upon a lot of SaaS-based companies. That was when, again, a lot of SaaS-based companies started booming up, right from Freshworks to Zoho to the likes. So the marketing ball game was completely different for these products. One of my mentors, he was developing a very critical product with respect to airlines and airport operations, and he wanted me in. So interviewed there, got that product marketing role with zero idea of what marketing, what marketing is or how it has to be conducted. But it sort of grew upon me, this entire role, because at the end of the day, again, product marketing at least is a lot more of strategy than tactics or just advertising or brand building. It's more about understanding the customers, the user journey, the customer journey, getting into the shoes of the buying journeys. And even eventually, if you see the entire product marketing now is placed in a way where analyst relations automatically get tied under product marketing. So it was like as though it was into marketing or product marketing. The interesting part here is that product marketing can never be boring because every day is like a new set of challenge for you. It also involves a lot of collaboration with a myriad of stakeholders across the organization that you will in the product marketing would be able to completely get a 360-degree view of the entire organization as such without touching the engineering team, right? End up touching every other team in the organization, right from customer success to implementation experts to customers themselves, the product team, the sales team, the marketing team. So it's like never 2 days are the same. It is so challenging, and that's what makes it more interesting.
Okay, wonderful. So you resigned to your fate.
It just happens sometimes, you just have to go with the flow. So then I realized that life is all about going with the flow. There has never been, okay, so whatever plans I make or have made in my life haven't really, it's never gone that way. It would have just gone the opposite way. But at the end of the day, there's this feeling like because this was different, I enjoyed the journey. So it's about enjoying the journey altogether, then not really being very stringent about the plans, because life can surprise us, and those surprises would be super sweet when compared to what we might have planned.
Yeah, agree. That's true. Wonder how you came to Chennai from a beautiful place like Bodhi,
Yeah.
settled in Chennai. But anyway, moving on. In product marketing, what specific vertical are you focusing on? What kind of product are you working on right now?
Okay, right now it is logistics. We are a tech company for logistics companies, primarily serving the freight forwarding organizations. I served as a associate director of product marketing. I was leading the product marketing here. Again, life throws a different thing, a different curveball. Just recently, a few months back, the founder called me aside. He wanted me to drive product marketing for a new product that's being developed. So it's a completely new organization, new product altogether. So I sort of moved in there, but at the same time, I'm also holding a dual role of being the program director of strategic initiatives within the founder's office, meaning which there are a lot of new initiatives, primarily with respect to AI, that my founder wants to drive within the company. So that would effectively improve employees' experience, employee productivity, make their jobs easier, reduce redundant work, and ensure that the information, the data within an organization is not siloed but is available to all at the right point in time, at the time that they would need when they are talking to their customers. It could be when sales folks are trying to talk to their leads. It could be anything. So it's about how we drive AI as a culture within the organization, and every day is really interesting according to me.
Right. So when you spoke about logistics, I think you mentioned about freight forwarding also. So what
Yes.
is your opinion about where freight forwarding is going? Because we have AI, we have so many software related to visibility and all that. So there is a whole lot of changes that are happening in the freight forwarding area. So where do you see it is going?
Currently, technically, the industry as such is, when it comes to adopting technology, I would still say freight forwarding industry is, or the logistics industry as a whole, is a laggard. They are most possibly the last humans on earth who would be adopting technology. So technology has started picking up pace within the freight forwarding and logistics industry, but I do see a lot of competitors who are getting into AI. But when we speak AI, most possibly it is doing some whatever with whatever models we currently have, right? Generic models. It's about doing some patchwork on top of that and then using the power of generative AI and coming up with solutions. But there are a few in the industry who are making waves by bringing in logistics specific LLMs, trying to completely rewrite the way freight forwarding or anything within logistics is currently functioning. Right from document processing to shipment processing to even carrier bookings or even rate procurements, there has been extensive adoption in terms of, or rather not even adoption, but a lot of shopping or window shopping that's been happening within the freight forwarding industry. People really want to start looking at AI, looking at adopting AI, so that they cut off the mundane work that is being primarily done by a lot of back office or even admin employees. So the industry is really moving in a very positive manner. I would still say the adoption is not at the pace of, at least the AI adoption is not at the pace of how it is within the other industries. But I'm sure maybe within a year or two, logistics as well as the freight forwarding industry would start looking at AI as a friend than a foe. So that's where we are.
Okay. So you mentioned about logistics people being the last in the earth for the adoption of technology because they are traditionally the people who don't believe in technology do it with human interactions. The human interactions are so powerful in this area because you get the first-hand knowledge of what is happening on the ground, the word of
Very
mouth, what is happening on the field on a day-to-day basis. Especially, it was very helpful when the COVID happened. Right, all the models failed. People were looking for on the ground information about where things are, and it was very helpful to have that human touch. Having said that, companies are looking at solutions like towers and all that for visibility and all that. Catch there is that the companies have their own proprietary systems, their
Yeah.
own needs for privacy and security, and so they don't
Yeah.
want to give the data to a third party to build the system
Yeah.
for them. So that's kind of catch of technology not being able to help this field because
Mhm.
everyone wants to build their own systems. I think things will take their own time and they will move on. Let's move on, and we have talked a lot about your work. Let's talk about your hobbies and interests. What do you do for fun other than work?
Okay, so talking about me, I'm someone who'd love to experiment a lot of things. COVID hit, and baking was my new hobby. But honestly speaking, from a cost perspective, right, a social cost, right, I'm someone more of like a DIY person because I really don't trust what's out there in the market from a commercial standpoint. Let it be biscuits, chocolates, cookies, any food or anything that we also use as cosmetics or even skincare. So I'm very diligent that we really don't get into sign up with commercial products out there because I've witnessed firsthand as to what it can do to human body. So I always read labels, and that sort of propelled me to do almost a lot of things from home at home, experimenting with different recipes, healthy foods, with any kind of new dishes. So that is something I've always embraced outside of my work during my weekends, of course. I can't say I'm very health conscious, but at least 90% health conscious when it comes to food and the ways of living. Bringing my kid into this world, I became even more conscious about what we start offering him because once we have the awareness that we start reading labels, we interpret what different preservatives, chemicals, etc., constituents that are being added. Once we start interpreting them, research has always been my strong point. Right from the time I don't know, it's been so long, even before my MBA, even during my schooling days, I always love reading and research. So this sort of happened to me where I started reading labels and sort of had this not hatred per se, the idea that it is better if we make things ourselves than really rely on what's out there in the market. And when you become a mom, the guilt feeling becomes all the more when you have that awareness that there are so many different things that are going into biscuits, chocolates, cookies, anything out there on the shelves. That's what sort of got me into baking, creating dishes, rather even skincare. I also make soap, really good natural handmade soap, free of any kind of chemicals, any kind of commercial chemicals out there. Also did yoga, teacher training. I do practice yoga from time to time. It keeps me really mindful and at the same time fit. Other than that, it's always been like spending time with my kid, family, going out very rarely for a trek or for a walk by the beach. Those are some things I really enjoy. These are all my hobbies, I would say, Venkat.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for sharing all those. It's pretty interesting because I was just talking to somebody about making biscuits today, and
Mhm.
they said that they made the biscuits at home because they didn't want to buy the biscuits from outside. And what they
Yeah.
realized was that, irrespective of whether you buy from outside or you make at home, you always have to use the oil and the other ingredients,
True.
which is a problem, right? So even today, I saw a post in LinkedIn about how unhealthy the oils are, especially to the Indians and the communities. So we got to be pretty conscious about what we are eating, as you said, and it's
Yeah.
quite interesting and great that you are very careful about the intake and paying attention to what is there in the products. That's great.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about portions. If you're making biscuits, you're not going to make like 100 biscuits. Even 10 biscuits is fine as long as you distribute amongst yourself. If each one eats like 2 biscuits and then we're done with it, then it's not about making huge amounts of biscuits and then storing it in containers for the next 15, 20 days and then binging on it. So it's always about portions. It's always about portion control. Eating, not really binging into foods, but eating, having that satiation and then being okay with it. And here again, it's not about making these things on a very frequent basis. It's about occasion. So occasion and then portion control plays a very, very major role, and also having it fresh. So these are my mantras. Honestly saying, I was on a vegan diet, but that really never worked for me. I restricted myself to a lot of things, but eventually ended up really becoming anemic. So then I switched my strategy wherein I was like, we'll have everything, but let's not, binge or indulge in it. If it is about biscuits, I eat like one cookie, maybe a week whenever I make cookies. It's never been like I eat these items, whatever we are baking, every day, because there is so much of oil that goes into it. But at least where we would be making the difference when we are making at home is when we don't really use palm oils or seed oils, commercial seed oils like the rice bran oil, the sunflower oil, etc. We just have to stick to the basics. It's always about following what our ancestors have done, because they can never go wrong. I believe in Ayurveda and what our ancestors have done. So it's about eating in portions, making sure that whatever you put inside as ingredients are healthy. Going back to the roots, basics, just stick with the basics. No fancy items here. It could be coconut oil, it could be sesame oil, or even groundnut oil. These three, or even ghee. These are the four major fats or oils that are being used, I don't know, since time immemorial, right? At least in India. So it's about finding the right ingredients, using the most basic ingredients, making it in small portions, distributing it amongst friends, families, and not eating it all. And I've never gone on diets or crash diets after I realized that, vegan or dieting is not for me.
It's quite interesting that you prefer these things in spite of being in the logistics and freight and long-term storage field. Great. So thanks for sharing those details. You already spoke about you care about food, you care about the intake and all those things. Apart from that, are there any specific societal issues that you care about that bothers you, want to do about them, or are you doing anything about them right now?
How we really bring in awareness in terms of how we live, how we can live mindfully. The second thing that I deeply care about is with respect to cancer patients. I've been very close with my father, and unfortunately, we sort of lost him to cancer. So when we were guardians of people who have cancer, it is painful, not only for the person but for the rest of the family and friends as well. And there are a lot of nuances to it. It's about there are a lot of organizations out there, but a lot of things are still a lot of common things are still missing for the cancer patients. It's about how we would be able to contribute primarily to the betterment of them, to ease their pain, to make them healthy in some way or the other, or at least to make their quality of life better. So that is something I'm super interested in. And the third thing, of course, is again about the environment. Every decision we take without awareness in terms of our lifestyle ends up impacting not only us but also the lives and the environment around us. So I'm looking at how we would be able to, or I would be, along with my brother, be able to contribute to a cause that is at the intersection of society, skincare, environment, and the lifestyle as such. So we both are working in stealth mode towards that, so we would be able to see something out there.
Okay, I have heard in my podcast about people
Yeah.
sharing about Ayurvedic products. And, a lot of good stuff, lot of, as you said, a lot of other
Yes.
ingredients that sneak into them also is there. So we need to be really diligent about what is going in and how it is affecting and all that. And the thing is,
Yeah.
it's very subjective in terms of individuals, because every individual's
Yes.
body reacts different to stuff. Do you have
Mhm.
anything else to add, or if you have any questions for me or about the podcast?
I'm used to interviewing a lot of people because it's a part of my product marketing. It's been a part of my product marketing role, but at this time it was different. It was a pleasant surprise when you reached out to me and you were interested. You were genuinely interested in what I would want to do or what role I'm in currently. So thanks for that. Thanks for organizing this, Venkat.
Thank you for sharing those things. I wish you all the best in whatever you want to do in life. Thank you so much for appearing in the podcast. Please take care.
Thank you. Bye. Take care.
That was a thoughtful podcast with Aarti Sudarsanam. Please subscribe to this channel and follow it for more awesome podcasts. Opinions expressed by the guests in this podcast are their own. The host or the sponsors of the podcast do not condone the opinions expressed by the guests or the actions arising out of those opinions. Any decisions or actions that the listeners might take as a result of listening to this podcast must be based on their own judgment and will be at their own risk. The podcast host or their sponsors will not be held responsible for the consequences of any actions and or decisions taken as a result of any content in this podcast.